Hey, Jared.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Oh, I see you like Chris Angel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watch his... Oh, you saw him in person?
Yeah, I saw him when I was 21, actually. And a good friend of his, he's actually a musician, and he made music with him. And I'm actually a bigger fan of him, actually.
Oh, really? I watched some of his stuff on TV, and it's crazy. It's like some of the stuff he does is just amazing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I haven't... I don't think he's had a TV show on in a while, but he's had a few different ones over the years. Yeah. I watch that a lot, too. But
it's amazing what those guys do.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to chatting with you for this next hour or so. And I was reading some stuff about some of the things that you're doing and some of the things that you've faced overall. So what I want more than anything is for you to explain to our audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, and then we can get right into the show.
Okay. My name is Jared. Lately, I've been doing a podcast on alternative health, spirituality, and philosophy. I've had like health issues over time. They've actually kind of compounded, and like when I was 21, I got really sick, and that's kind of when a lot of my health problems kind of arose. But yeah, I mean, I have a background kind of in martial arts. I used to train martial arts for several years. And I've kind of been always into kind of philosophy and stuff like that, especially because I've had depression in the past. And I meditate pretty frequently, and I like kind of like Western, but also Eastern philosophy, like Stoicism and Zen Buddhism, but some other stuff as well too, like Objectivism. That's what I've been doing. And I also have a book out now too, under the same name, Psynautical. I just got the name from psychonauts or whatever, because that's a term people use when they kind of use biohacking and science to kind of like explore their minds and stuff like that.
Sure. So what is Stoicism, and can you explain the different isms?
Oh, the ism.
Yeah.
Stoicism is really people have a kind of a misunderstanding about it, because it's really about kind of accepting like your situation where you're at, and it's really like some people like they do like kind of like a Stoic morning meditation and evening meditation. I haven't done that lately. And the morning one is kind of where they kind of predict what could go bad, what could go wrong. And then the evening one is kind of like where they reflect on their day and they see like what they've done right, what they've done wrong. And it's always trying to be like act with integrity and be like truthful, honest, and just be a good person. I've been a big fan of, there's a few books I've read online, and I've even written an article, and I put some of it in my book. Some of them are a little hard to read because the Stoicism started, I believe, in Greece like a long time ago, and the translations aren't always correct, and it's a bit hard to read. But yeah.
But what's a layman, like if someone said, hey, what is Stoicism? What would be like a layman description? Is it basically the meditation, a pre-day meditation, and then a post-day meditation? Is that the fundamental of it?
That's the fundamental of it. They also, it's just like kind of like radical acceptance of like situations. It's not really like resisting and stuff like that. Some people kind of misinterpret it as being like kind of passive, like not taking action. But it's really just, it's similar to kind of like Eastern philosophy in some ways, and even like Eckhart Tolle, about really being in the present moment and not like really resisting, especially if things are going bad or wrong. Because sometimes people can kind of focus on that and it just kind of spirals out of control.
Sure. Excellent. So what is it about meditation that you find the most helpful or satisfying?
It's a few things. I think it kind of helps kind of quiet the mind. I use it like in a few different ways. I use, for the most part, I've just listened to isochronic tones or binaural beats, and I just either put on headphones or I listen to on speakers. It kind of focus on my breathing, but it kind of helps quiet the mind. But it also can, sometimes it also kind of helps with like intuition and come up with good ideas. And it can also be, it's not really, isn't like mainstream, but if you're like really tired or exhausted, even like a short meditation session can actually kind of like recharge you.
So what are isochromic tones?
Isochromic tones. They've been around for a while. They're these tones and frequencies that basically help and train your mind so you can easier get into like a deeper state, like a brainwave state, like a theta or delta state, which is more where your meditation and deep meditation is kind of in theta, and delta is more for sleep. I also use them for sleep as well too. There's a lot of different ones. Like you can find them on Spotify. You can also find them on YouTube. There are a lot of good different ones, and for a lot of different. There's even like subliminal like messages and stuff if you want to kind of work on your subconscious. And some people even use it with hypnosis because it goes well with that too.
So before we get too further along, so we're using a lot of terms that are new to me, right? Okay. So when you explain this stuff, if you can explain it like to someone that doesn't know what you're talking about. So
okay.
So like this way I don't have to always ask like, what does this mean and what does that mean? Because I'm assuming that a lot of people in my audience who are interested in this may not know what those terms mean. And I think that I don't want you to get your message to get lost.
Okay. Yeah.
So tell me about your personal health journey and your recovery from those health issues, which I'm assuming is still ongoing.
Yeah, it's still ongoing. Yeah. I mean, I've had issues basically all my life. When I was younger, I have high functioning autism. I've also had gut issues like IBS. When I was a teenager, I developed severe depression. And when I was about 21, I got really sick and started developing like classic fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, like brain fog and cognitive dysfunction, likely due to Epstein-Barr, perhaps even like Lyme and co-infections as well too.
And was this diagnosed by a doctor?
I've had testing for Epstein-Barr, for Lyme and co-infections. It's really tricky because it's not so cut and dry as you take a test and then and then it shows up positive or negative. It's really the testing is, if you want really involved testing, it's actually out of pocket and it can cost several $100s. Mm-hmm. And there are some resources that you can to get it reimbursed, but typically you have to pay for it up front and then you get reimbursed for it. But I've had naturopaths and other doctors confirm this. I did go to a specialist, someone specialist in fibromyalgia in the area. He actually wasn't that helpful. But yeah, I've had at least a few people comment or say that post-viral. And, when I have gone to counseling and medication and been on a lot of different medication for depression in the past as well too. Right now I'm trying to figure out a few different things. I'm going to a neuropsychologist or trying to soon for kind of to help with the autism piece, but also maybe some other stuff as well too. And also trying, it's a fairly new medication within the last year or two. It's S-ketamine, which is a form of ketamine. And ketamine is kind of like they have clinics and infusion clinics, they typically treat for depression, but they also use it for pain. S-ketamine is covered by insurance typically. Ketamine typically isn't.
So when I was reading about you a little bit, you had some experiences with the medical system, including mental health care. What are your thoughts about your own personal experience as you went through all of that?
So it's been interesting. It's been similar to how kind of like with the conventional medical system is, I tried for a period of years, like 3 or 4 years, like recently, I tried several different medications. Like there was so many, like it was every 3 or 4 months I was on a new medication, and I went to about 4 counselors. And I don't know, I didn't really see much help or benefit with any of the medications. I even put on some weight. It felt like it just kind of like numbed or suppressed my emotions. The counselors, there was 1 or 2 that I really liked. The rest of them, they were just some of the comments that just came across and like interactions was just kind of came across some professionals at times.
Sure.
Like some of the comments were just like, some of them were just like, oh, you just need to like kind of like get a job and just need to motivate yourself, maybe go on a vacation or something like that. And I thought that was kind of ignorant to say when, especially these counselors and stuff, have like bachelor's degrees, master's degree and stuff like that. And that's kind of like the best they can come up with. So eventually.
Then did you have like beginning symptoms that caused you to seek medical help, or how did that process happen where it was identified and then you decided to seek help?
So I was actually hospitalized. It was kind of an interesting story. I had, it started out as like kind of an anxiety panic attack, and then I really couldn't sleep, and then things got worse and worse, and I was hospitalized for 9 days, and they put me on a number of medications there. After that, they said you should, try medication and counseling, and so I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and it just got to a point where it was just nothing was really helping and nothing was really working, so I tapered off. And in the past several months, especially with I have new, better insurance, is I've been trying to look into kind of more alternative means such as esketamine, but also there's a lot of different, I think counseling, a lot of people think it is kind of like CBT, which is kind of cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's basically talk therapy where you kind of just talk your problems out. And that helps with some, but there's also so many other therapies. There's like dialectical, which I don't have much experience or knowledge about. There's somatic, which is kind of, what is it? It's more like physical based. Like there's a bunch of different types, and I've been looking into that. Like there's EMDR and stuff like that as well too. There's hypnosis. There's neurolinguistic programming and stuff like that people do. So I've been looking into that as of late.
And the thing that I sort of want to sort of understand is how did you determine, or did you determine that traditional medicine was not giving you the answers that you sought, and what made you seek out alternative medical treatment? Like, was there something that was an aha moment, if you will?
So what was interesting was when I started developing health issues, I was actually pretty healthy and fit. I was training in mixed martial arts. I was doing high intensity weight training, which I still do some. And I was kind of on like a paleo diet because that helped a lot with my gut issues and my skin. And so when I started developing kind of like brain fog, other stuff, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't know if I'm just kind of losing my mind or if I had a stroke. Like I even thought that because I really was out of it and confused. And I still have some of that too. And for a while, I didn't go to anybody because I didn't have any health insurance. So I didn't really go into anybody. But I remember the first few doctors that I went to, especially that really started to change my mind, because I remember the first few doctors I went to, they're kind of like family. The first one I went to was kind of like a family medicine doctor that actually my dad went to. And he did, a lot of like the standard tests, not like comprehensive tests, but a lot of the standard tests. And he's found that my cholesterol was kind of like slightly elevated. It wasn't like that bad. And so he determined that, all these health issues and other problems were due to cholesterol. And I thought that was a little ridiculous at the time. And I was put on statins for a while. And so, and I stopped doing that. And then I went to, an endocrinologist because I thought maybe they could, address maybe if it's something internal, maybe it's something like adrenal fatigue, which they don't really recognize. A lot of more alternative stuff.
Diabetes?
What?
Did they screen for diabetes?
Yeah, they screen for. I've gotten a few diabetes screenings as well too, and my blood sugar has been normal too. Every time my A1C, I think it's been maybe elevated a few times. But yeah, I went to an endocrinologist to see maybe if they could, maybe it's a thyroid or adrenal or something like that. And he kind of just thought the same thing about like statins and stuff like that. And I thought, I don't know about this. And I went to a gastroenterologist because my gut issues were kind of flaring up as well too. And they did a colonoscopy and endoscopy, and they weren't really much help either. And I just, I remember kind of having a mental breakdown over it, just like frustrated really with the medical system. And I think it was kind of some forums like paleo diet and stuff like that kind of recommend people. And I did see a nutritionist, which wasn't much of a help, but I did start seeing a naturopath. And then over the years, I've seen a few different naturopaths. I have gone to like some conventional doctors, but it just seems like, I don't know, they kind of do like some standardized testing, and then they're just like kind of throw their hands up in there, and they're like, well, you just need to, I don't know, walk, exercise, take care of yourself better. And I try to do that every day.
Sure. Well, one thing I was reading that I thought was interesting. So it says that you worked in a hostile work environment for 5 years. What was that like? And do you think that had a direct cause or had an effect on your health issues?
Yeah. So when I started having started getting like really sick and started having all these, I was under some stress. I was, I think it was part of like kind of a stressful job, and it was even just part-time. I also trying to start a business, which was Amway, which didn't work out. And also kind of like a bad relationship. But afterwards it was, I don't know, it was interesting. It's in a culinary, like a restaurant environment, tend to be kind of high pace. And there was a lot of difficult people, but it just, I don't know, I had a lot of like bad interactions, especially with kind of like my supervisors. And I've known a lot of people that have worked there or still work there that still don't kind of like the management style and stuff like that. There was a few people in particular, but it was just, a lot of it was just like they felt like I wasn't doing enough, or like I don't know. It just, a lot of like rude kind of nasty comments. I remember like one person, like several times he called me like kind of like a loser, like a parasite, like compared me to like some insects or whatever and stuff like that. And it got to a point where like for a year or two, I like kind of put up with it. But then after that, it was like I had to go to HR like every 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And then I even filed like a harassment claim with the state. Eventually I got to a point where I just like kind of walked off or quit the job. And the next job, actually, I lasted there less than a month. And so after that, I just was like, I'm kind of done with this field and culinary field.
It is. It's a very tough field and a very unforgiving field. I know several people who work in the restaurant business. So you, I saw that you wrote a book, the Psynautical.
Psynautical, yeah.
Psynautical. So tell me what motivated you to write that book, and what, if you could summarize that book to the people that are listening now, what would that book be about?
Yeah, so it's changed over time. I started several years ago. I want to say probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I started doing kind of writing on articles, but also on my blog eventually about several different topics. And I would write on a range of topics, everything from like kind of entertainment to health and, some like philosophy and martial arts.
Sure.
And so I created like a few Facebook pages to kind of narrow them down. And Psynautical was kind of more like alternative health, self-help, philosophy and stuff like that. And so I decided, I have quite a few articles and stuff like that. I could kind of compile it into a book. And so I started doing that, and I've started to add more into it over time. It's really a combination of things. I've tried to narrow it down to more alternative health, spirituality, and philosophy. And I may even split those up into kind of more narrow topics, like one book being on more alternative health. As of late, it's been a lot more alternative health and stuff I've just tried, because I do try a lot of stuff at home, whether it be supplements or biohacking or different treatments. Like ozone therapy is a treatment that I've been trying. And I even have, still kind of a short book. It's only about 100 pages. There's like a section for kind of recipes I've been working on, but also resources like where I've kind of learned and got a lot of this information from. But there's quite a few different topics. I know there's some on martial arts. There's some kind of on philosophy. There's some on, as of late, it's just kind of different therapies that I've been trying.
Sure.
And
so let me touch on that a little bit. What has martial arts? I saw that you stopped training in martial arts when you started to get sick. Have you resumed that?
as of late, I've actually been trying to resume it. I've been kind of practicing at home because I know some like the Filipino martial arts, which are more weapons based. Those are like stick, knife, and improvised weapons. So I've been doing some of that at home, and I do like to do kind of because they're more restorative, is kind of like Qigong and Tai Chi. And I have been looking into, there's a gym, actually, it's a 10th Planet Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they also have training MMA. But it's been difficult as of late due to COVID. Everything is either shut down or it's kind of limited classes.
What do you get from training? I mean, I'm curious, like, it sounds like that's pretty passionate for you. What do you get when you train out of it? You know, how does it make you feel? What is it that you get back from participating in those arts?
I don't know. It's something I've always kind of enjoyed. I think it kind of helps kind of like ground and balance my emotions, especially if you have like a lot of anger and rage. It's like a good outlet for that. And also you make good like friends and connections. I know that the last place I trained at, I'm still friends with some of them that I trained with, and the instructor there, he was kind of like a mentor of mine for some time. I mean, I like to train various martial arts, kind of like the mixed martial arts. So that's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, kind of like kickboxing.
Hapkido. Do you do Hapkido?
Yeah, I've done several martial arts in the past, Hapkido being one of them. Most of my training has actually been, although I did start out kind of traditional martial arts, I would say it's more modern combative stuff that's used in kind of like cage fighting and MMA. But I do like to kind of dabble in other stuff like kind of Filipino martial arts. Capoeira is one I've been interested in for a while. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one I actually like quite a bit. And there's a style, it's a bit unorthodox, but there's a gym, 10th Planet, that I want to train in. And it was created by actually Eddie Bravo, who's friends with Joe Rogan. And he's really talented, and he's trained a lot of fighters as well too.
Excellent. So on that note, I want to ask you about, because of these health issues and these challenges that you've had, tell me about your opinions on ableism in our society. And you wrote in your commentary that's something that you had some opinion about. So I want to know what you think about ableism in society in general, and also in the workplace.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was actually a tweet or something like that, and it was kind of being shared. I think it was on Twitter, and it was interesting. And some people were saying that like I'd rather be like dead than blind or disabled and stuff like that. And I just thought it was really messed up.
That
kind
is
of perspective. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, even like when I had depression, kind of when I was a teenager, like I remember kind of opening up to someone, and I wasn't saying I was suicidal or whatever. And they went around and said, like, kind of like create a rumor that I was like suicidal or going to kill myself. And I was just like kind of taken aback about that. But I dealt with it a lot, like especially in my hostile work environment. There was an issue with, for a while now, I get like easily overheated, and especially in like a kitchen, like when it's around summertime, and especially if they don't have good AC, I'll get like overheated. And there was an issue with like a chef coat, whether I could wear a shirt underneath it or not. And I literally like went to my doctor to get a note that saying like I could take my chef's coat off, and I brought it to work and stuff like that. And then HR came back, well, like, no, you can't do it due to the safety issue or whatever like that. And so I remember like I was just getting overheated like at the start of my shift, and I just like took it off, and like my supervisor just went off on me, and like I literally had to like wait outside of like HR or whatever. And I had like talked to him about it, and I just thought it was kind of, I don't know, kind of ridiculous, because I remember several months later there was someone that was pregnant, and not to diss on her or anything, but she like they had no issue with her taking it off because she was uncomfortable or whatever. And so then like they did express that, you know, I could wear a chef coat without a shirt underneath, because that was way too hot, especially with the shirt underneath.
Sure.
And I don't know. I remember they even like let me go for like a few days because I kind of like actually snapped in them. But it's just been a lot of stuff over like that. I don't know. It's just like I get like kind of like people think it's just like kind of like a motivation issue, or you just kind of like laziness or something like that? Like, because I still feel like kind of like I have to really push myself and kind of motivate myself to really do a lot of things.
Well, I will tell you, I am type 2 diabetic, right?
Yeah.
And I've been that way for a few years. It's controlled now, but you know, it's a daily everything. And Jared, when I don't eat well, if I don't eat right, my sugar goes high or low. There are times that I can't concentrate, or I just can't keep my eyes open. I'm so tired or lethargic or unmotivated, you know. And if somebody came up to me, and they could easily misconstrue that for being, you know, unmotivated or lazy, as you put it, or what have you. And I think that that's an interesting topic that I want to talk more about. Is, you know, people judge the situation based on the outward appearance of what's going on, without really asking questions or trying to understand what's going on a deeper level. Because it may not be that, hey, I'm unmotivated. It could be your sugar is sky high, or your some other issues going on. Like my sister has fibromyalgia, and she constantly tells me what a challenge it is for her with swelling and all this other stuff. And all of those things can affect your brain and your attentiveness and your energy levels and all of that. I'm curious, if you were in the position of HR, what would you do differently if somebody came into your office explaining to them what you have been explaining to me?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is the job I actually work with. It's a nonprofit, and it's a much more better environment, and it's they employ like about 75% or more people with disabilities. And I really like how they, HR, especially like the HR team, like if people need to talk about something, or if they're not doing well, they'll really like try and work with you. And they even, for some of the work that we do, they've even thought of bringing in counselors, and stuff. But yeah, I would probably use more like their style. They're really like open-minded. We have like weekly, bi-weekly meetings where we kind of, it's called Cultivating Resilience, but it was more about like COVID and stuff like that. But it's touched on kind of like childhood trauma, all these other topics, like, you know, like racism and stuff like that. And it just feels like a lot more inclusive, and it feels like a lot more open. I can talk about my health problems. I don't go into like great detail, but I've like told my supervisor things like when I get ozone therapy, like I'm kind of out of it entirely.
Right.
But I really like their approach. Like I've never really had, I've only been working there like 4 or 5 months, but I've never really had issues really with any coworkers or really any supervisors. Really like on my shift or the one before, because all the people that I work with, most of the people I work with, they've only been working there as long as I have. And my supervisor, she was actually hired shortly after we were as well.
Do you think that being in a job that you enjoy has a positive impact on your health? And have you noticed like a difference?
Yeah, I've noticed much of a difference. I still feel like, I guess kind of like on edge or stressed a lot of times. But I do think it feels like, especially if you're in a good job or if you're doing something you're passionate about, I feel like that can really help with energy and stuff like that too. Because if you're stuck in kind of like a dead end job, especially in kind of the hostile work environments,
sure,
it's really like an energy drain. It's like an energy vampire. That's like, I actually watched a docuseries or documentary, and that's what they actually called it. Like if you're in a bad, even like any kind of bad situation or relationship, it's really like an energy drain. And if you have like health issues, it just makes it worse.
Jared, that is so true. I read an article that was so interesting. It talked about the impact of stress on your health and your mental acuity and your cognitive abilities. And, you know, I as someone who is in media, I can tell you that there are times where there's a lot of stress, and, you know, you don't feel good. I always get like stomach issues, and because you don't eat right, because you're not really hungry, so you just grab what's convenient, and it tastes good at the time, but it kills me. It literally kills my stomach hours later. And then also stress is a leading cause of heart attack and stroke and all of that. I think doctors are just starting to really figure out how high level impact stress can be on your physical health and on your mental health. And a hostile work environment couldn't be any more stressful than that.
Yeah.
The only thing more stressful than that is living at home in a hostile environment, like in a bad relationship. And you said you had one of those as well. So I was just curious if now that you have a job that you enjoy, if you notice a difference in your stress level, a difference in your health, or the negative impact on your health as a result of those other stimulus.
Yeah. I think it's been helping. I mean, I do have kind of like other interests and goals and stuff like that, like my podcast and book.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your podcast, right? Because I'm a podcaster, and I'm always curious to see how other people get into podcasting. I'm a really busy guy myself, but I really enjoy podcasting because I like meeting people and I like hearing other people's stories. So what led you to get into podcasting, and what do you like about it?
Yeah. So it was kind of a combination of things. I've done streaming on Twitch some. I've also done a YouTube channel, and it was actually, what is it? It was a kind of a business, like entrepreneurial website that said like podcasts are like a big emerging thing. There's a lot less saturation and stuff. And I thought it was a good way to kind of bring in some extra money, but also like be a good way to kind of get like a lot of the information and stuff I've had on there. And so I've been trying to be consistent with it at least a few times a month or so. I've had some interesting guests on. I've had a few. I've also done kind of several solo ones as well too. On a
what's the name of your podcast? Is it Psynautical?
Yeah, it's Psynautical.
Great. And is it a weekly? Do you just do it randomly a few times a month?
It's been randomly. It's been kind of since going back to work, and I was actually laid off for 3 weeks. I was trying to do it weekly, but it just depends on my schedule and how much time I have, and because setting up guests can sometimes be a little bit tricky, I've found.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Setting up guests, do you do all your own research? And if you do, how do you pick the topics that you talk about, or do you specifically stay within the realm of what we're talking about here?
I don't know. So a lot of it is I'm involved with several different Facebook groups for not only promotion but finding guests and stuff. That's where I've found a lot of my guests. I have reached out to a few people that I've found, like there's these, I want to say podcasting guest networks where you can kind of find people. And I found a few people that way that I'm trying to set up. As far as topics, it really varies. I try to focus on kind of different things. Like there was a documentary I saw on kind of like holistic and alternative, like dentistry and dental work, which I thought was really interesting. I did a short one on that. I've done one on like kind of gut binders because I use those for kind of detox. As far as guests, I've had a few different ones on. I try to fit like kind of like in that topic. Like one was he kind of had like a spiritual revelation of sorts, but he became like kind of like a writer. He's a poet, and he also is like an artist as well too. And he does a lot of like kind of new age art. The other one was I think a guest on. He talked a lot about like kind of philosophy and meditation. And he gave a TED talk about it, and I talked about that. And then there was someone else he actually was really mild and mellow, and he had PTSD, and he actually, with the help of counseling, but also ayahuasca, was able to kind of overcome that. And so we talked about that.
For philosophy, I want to touch on that for a second, because I'm a big believer in philosophy. I think that if you learn from the past, and you can learn. And I meditate in the morning. I don't normally meditate in the evening, but I do meditate in the morning. And is there, like, when I meditate, I always believe that, if you control somebody who controls the past controls the future. But if you control the present, you can control the past. And so, and I that was my meditation topic for this morning, and it was by the quote was by George Orwell, who wrote 1984. And I thought about it, and I thought, this is so true. If you control the past, if you're in the past, you can control what the future brings. But if you are in the present, you can go back and revise the past. And that's what he was saying, is that the people that are in power presently can go back and they can revise history, they can revise viewpoints and so forth and so on. But if you're in the past, if you're before the future, you can actually build that future. And I use my meditation, I use these morning meditations to sort of challenge my mind to think of what's important. How can I have a positive impact on the world for the time that I'm in the world? Do you find that philosophy brings you peace, enlightenment, or understanding, or all of those things?
It's kind of a combination. Enlightenment, I mean, there are a few people that I like that I kind of follow. In the past, it's been more Eckhart Tolle, although I've been reading some of his stuff. I am a fan of Teal Swan and a few others. They have, they say they've become enlightened or whatever. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I'm not saying that that's not possible. Like, I know like Buddha and Jesus, if that's what you believe as well too. I think it's more about, I guess, being, kind of like more self-control and self-awareness. That's what I kind of more focus on. I'm not really trying to, I don't know, I guess be like, I guess, preachy or kind of enlightened or whatever.
Sure.
Because I do have a lot of like kind of new age kind of friends and stuff like that. And sometimes they can go a little out there and it's hard to kind of grasp what they're trying to say or talk about. Even Teal Swan, like, she makes a lot of valid points, but I think she also has a high IQ and stuff like that. And she makes a lot of valid points, but sometimes I have a hard time grasping. But yeah, I think it's really good to like kind of self-awareness and self-control and kind of like change your perspective, kind of like, especially on past events and like kind of traumatic events as well too. Because you really can't like change the past, but you can change like how you view it and how you kind of your perspective of it, and kind of try to learn from it as best you can.
Sure. So I guess what I want to, we're almost out of time, but I want to give you the last few minutes to sort of tell people how they can find you, how they can order your book, and what you would like to say to the audience if you have like a few minutes to just talk to them directly. So why don't you go ahead and do that, and then I'll finish up on the end.
Okay. Yeah. I have right now, I have a podcast. It's Psynautical. It's on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. It's on probably about 10 or more platforms. You can just Google it. The book Psynautical is available on ebook and paperback. Right now, I recently redesigned the cover of the ebook one, but I'm working on the paperback as well too. I run a YouTube channel as well too, although I'm not as active, although I do upload the video podcasts, or the vodcast, I guess you'd call it. And it's Chronic Fun Syndrome, just kind of a play on words, chronic fatigue syndrome and other stuff.
I like it.
But yeah, I also have a Facebook page associated with Psynautical. I have a Facebook group as well too, if you feel like joining that. I am getting a little bit into health coaching as well too. If people, I'm mostly actually looking for reviews on my book. So if anyone just like wants a free copy, they can try and contact me and I'll share it. And I plan on updating over time. But yeah, I have a Facebook page. I have an Instagram, which is also Chronic Fun Syndrome. Those are probably the best ways to reach me. I do have a website, jaredheldt.com. I've had to redesign it a few times in the past, and I do try to post on there like blog posts and stuff like that.
Excellent. Well, listen, Jared, it was so nice to have you on the show. I really enjoyed getting to learn about your journey, and I wish you such wonderful luck in your future. And if there's anything that we can ever do for you, or maybe if you come back at some future date, we would love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit as well.
Thank you so much. And I thought it was cool that we both like Chris Angel.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.